Thanks so much for joining us for CBN News Today. I'm Ephraim Graham.
And I'm Heather Sells. Millions of Americans face record snowfalls and record low temperatures with dangerous wind chills today. The winter weather is closing schools from Chicago to Minneapolis in the Dakotas, with Arctic air even in the deep south. Mark Martin has the story.
More than half the country finds itself covered in snow and locked in a deep freeze today.
When I wake up, it's snowing. Fall asleep, it's snowing. The worst part, I think, is probably driving in it.
Ice and snow wreaked havoc on roads from the Midwest to the East Coast, leading to dangerous pileups. Law enforcement even shut down an interstate in central Indiana because of so many accidents. In Minnesota, stalled, spun-out cars crashed into medians and highway shoulders. In our nation's capital, there was almost a whiteout at the White House. School buses slid off streets in Virginia.
The bus never showed up because we are at the top of a hill.
Dozens of school districts across the Midwest are closed because of dangerous temperatures, with wind chills expected to plunge as low as 50 below zero in some areas.
The kind of North Stars that guide us: health and safety of the children, and enough planning time for the parents to make the adjustments if they're needed.
Those that do have to venture outside pile on the layers.
My fingers are a little frozen after the first 5 minutes.
In Fargo, North Dakota, construction workers who have to work outside are concerned about sweating.
For me, fighting the sweat is the biggest issue because that freezes. I'll spray my feet and such with antiperspirant so it doesn't sweat as much.
It's so cold in some areas, the road salt is having no effect on the icy highways. In Chicago, they've used fire to warm up train tracks. Mark Martin, CBN News.
The first day of the new Congress brought the first clash between President Obama and Republican leaders. It came moments after Republicans took control of the Senate. The White House immediately vowed to veto their first bill, a measure approving construction of the long-stalled Keystone oil pipeline. Another top priority for the GOP is scaling back Obamacare. Republicans want to change Obamacare's definition of a work week, bumping it from 40 hours to 30 hours. It's because so many employers have slashed workers' hours to avoid paying for health care. The first black female Republican in Congress is just one of many who say she will push to replace Obamacare.
Look, I was elected by my district to make sure that we get the decision-making back in their hands, and I've said that I was going to do everything I can to repeal and replace it with something that is functional and get with broad health care reforms, free market health care reforms, and that's exactly what I'm going to do.
President Obama has vowed to block any attempt to repeal his signature health care law.
More than 9 in 10 of the members of the 114th Congress sworn in this week do identify as Christian. The Pew Research Center reports about 57% of the House and Senate is Protestant and 31% is Catholic. There's actually a greater percentage of Protestants and Catholics in Congress than in the U.S. population.
Former Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell is facing a 2-year prison sentence, far less than the original 10-year sentence prosecutors were seeking. McDonnell was found guilty on 11 counts of public corruption. After the sentence was handed down, McDonnell apologized for his mistakes, but he said he did not violate his oath of office and will continue to fight to prove his innocence.
Most importantly, I want to say that I have immense faith in the justice system, but I have tremendous faith and trust in the providence of the Lord Jesus Christ and his ability to mete out justice, and so that is my hope for ultimate vindication.
In addition to the prison time, McDonnell will serve 2 years probation. His wife was convicted on 8 counts of corruption. She'll be sentenced February 20th.
In Egypt, gunmen killed 2 policemen guarding a Coptic church south of Cairo as Coptic Christians prepared to observe the Orthodox Christmas. Police have been searching for the suspects. Orthodox Christians around the world celebrate Christmas on January 7th, according to the Julian calendar. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi attended a Christmas mass, making him the first Egyptian president since Gamal Abdel Nasser to attend one. Attacks against Christians have risen since the ouster of Islamist President Mohamed Morsi in 2013.
At least 11 people are confirmed dead in a shooting at the headquarters of a satirical newspaper in central Paris. The shooting happened at Charlie Hebdo, which has received repeated threats for its caricatures of the Prophet Muhammad and other controversial sketches. One eyewitness told reporters he saw multiple masked men armed with automatic weapons. Police say the attackers escaped in 2 vehicles. The incident has prompted a visit to the scene from French President Francois Hollande.
A Dutch politician who opposes radical Islam is facing a daily threat of death, but Gert Wilders says he would rather die than not speak the truth.
For the past 10 years, he's lived under constant police protection. Dale Hurd brings us his courageous story in this CBN News exclusive.
He is one of the most controversial figures in the world, hated by millions, marked for death. He is Dutch Parliament member Gert Wilders. Wilders believes the religion of Islam is violent and dangerous, and because he has said so publicly and persistently, he has given up a normal life. It was 10 years ago this month that Wilders began living under police protection. It began after the murder of Theo van Gogh, who made a film attacking Islam. Dutch police believed Wilders might be the next victim and showed up at his door.
And they were wearing machine guns and bulletproof vests. And I said, hey, what is happening? And he said, well, we don't know what is happening, but you have to leave now in 3 minutes. So I could just take some shirts and went away, and we didn't know where we went, where we would go. The police didn't even know. We changed cars and we ended up in an army barrack. And since then, 10 years ago, I have not been home. It's not only the threats, but it's the fact that you lose your freedom and your privacy. My wife and I lived for a few months in a prison cell in Zeist, where the Lockerbie suspects used to be imprisoned. And nowadays, we have safe houses. I live in a safe house from the state.
Do you ever wonder if you made a mistake? Has this been worth it?
Well, I'm sure I did make no mistake. I make mistakes every day. I'm just human, so I'm full of mistakes. But to speak the truth about Islam, as I see it, and as the reality is not a mistake. I wish many people did it. I understand why few people do it, because the price is very high. Besides the death threats that you get from average people, from Islamic descent, from organizations like Al-Qaeda or the Taliban, you also, a lot of people label you as a bigot or racist or an extremist. They try to hurt you in any possible way. You are sued, like I have been and will be again, by a criminal court or by another court. They will sue you, they will threaten you, they will label you. So I understand it's not very attractive to speak out against the dark forces of Islam, to be proud of our own values and identity that I believe are based on Christianity and Judaism and humanism, not about Islam. And you pay a very high price. So I understand that people don't do it, but people should do it. And what is happening with the Islamic State nowadays in the last few months has opened the eyes of so many people. So I hope it will change.
You can't think of doing anything else? You never wished you had done something else to have a normal life?
I wish I had a normal life, yes. I would be lying to you if I would say that that is my most important wish, to lead a normal life. But even more important than that is to fight Islam, to fight for our freedom, the freedom of our society, to be proud on who we are. And I really strongly believe that Islam is dangerous, Islam is violent, Islam wants to dominate, not assimilate in our societies. And our countries, our free societies will change, and Christians, Jews, apostates, we will be the first one to pay a price if Islam will get its way in our free society. So we have to stand up and fight against it, and I would rather die than not be able to speak freely.
Speaking of dying, some don't believe you'll die a natural death, that sooner or later terrorists will get to you, and they're planning to kill you at some point in the future.
Yes. Yes. You know, it's better not to think about that every day, about the threats and what could happen to me or my family. It would be impossible to live by. So I don't, but you are right. It can happen. It can happen.
Are you willing to spend the rest of your life in police protection?
If it has to be like that, then I will have no choice. It's better to have police protection than to be dead.
A suicide bomber driving a minibus has killed at least 30 people in the capital of Yemen. The bomber struck as lines of cadets gathered to enroll at a police academy in the heart of Sana'a. No one has claimed immediate responsibility for the attack. Al-Qaeda in Yemen has carried out similar violence in the past. Washington considers it to be the most dangerous branch of the terror network, as it has been linked to several failed attacks here in the U.S.
Israel's Shin Bet security agency has arrested 3 Palestinians who had formed an ISIS terror cell in the West Bank city of Hebron. The agency says the 3 had planned to murder an Israeli soldier and use his weapon and uniform to carry out a terror attack. They also confessed to assembling bombs for the attacks. This is the first case made public of ISIS in Israel. According to the reports, the would-be terrorists did not have direct contact with outside forces, but followed the group's ideology.
Palestine will join the International Criminal Court beginning in April. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon made the announcement Tuesday. This would mean that Palestine could bring war crime charges against Israel. The move would also affect the chances of an Israeli-Palestinian peace deal. Israel responded to the decision on Saturday. It froze more than $100 million in tax funds collected for Palestine. The U.S. also opposed the move and said it would review its annual $440 million aid package to the Palestinians.
The FBI has filed a criminal complaint and arrest warrant for 2 Americans accused of leading a failed plot to overthrow the government of Gambia. Federal officials say a 57-year-old man from Texas allegedly financed the operation, and a 46-year-old from Minnesota admitted he participated in the attempted coup with a group of armed fighters. The Texas man, Cherno Njai, reportedly planned to serve as the interim leader of Gambia had the effort succeeded. The failed coup occurred December 30th as Gambian President Yahya Jammeh was outside the country.
Coming up, breast cancer, 2 words no woman ever wants to hear. We'll show you new technology, how it is helping doctors fight the deadly disease.
A doctor was killed Tuesday when a gunman opened fire at a VA medical center in El Paso, Texas. Police say the shooter then killed himself. Right now, authorities are working to figure out a motive, but say they believe the man acted alone.
Breast cancer is the second leading cause of death in women, and now doctors are fighting it with a new tool that appears to detect breast cancer better than the traditional mammogram. Lori Johnson tells us about 3D mammograms and why getting one in addition to a regular mammogram could be the way of the future.
Jennifer Heft lives life to the fullest, but the hot air balloon enthusiast and race car driver could have lost her life to breast cancer had it not been for the 3D mammogram she got.
I truly believe that the 3D mammography is what got my cancer early and is allowing me to pretty much live my life the way I want to.
3D mammograms have only been used for a few years. Compared to the traditional 2D mammograms, the 3D mammograms allow radiologists to get a better overall view of the breast.
A mass that has irregular borders in the upper part of the breast, and this is very much typical of what a cancer looks like. Hidden on the 2D mammogram, but very well seen on the 3D mammogram.
Dr. Friedewald and her associates studied nearly 500,000 women and discovered the 3D mammograms detected nearly a third more cancers than regular mammograms did. The study appears in the Journal of the American Medical Association.
We found invasive cancers, or the cancers that we worry about, the ones that could potentially kill people, more frequently in women who had the 3D mammogram versus the women who just had the 2D mammogram.
They also discovered 3D mammograms produced fewer false positives than traditional mammograms. Right now, 40,000 people die each year from breast cancer, but thanks to the 3D mammogram, that number may decline.
Life is short. My life's going to be long and full, and I'm going to go out and do the things I want to.
Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Up next, a cry for help from a single dad raising his autistic son by himself. Watch how both father and son get the support they need after this.
Well, parenting a child is a huge joy and a tremendous responsibility. And if the child has special needs, it can be downright overwhelming. especially for single parents.
Paul Strand brings us the story of a place that's become a haven for special needs children and their parents.
When military couple Gary and Antonia Woodland gave birth to a son with autism, they felt they could handle it because they had each other.
Together we can beat this, we got this, we'll do it together, there won't be any challenge that he faces that will be that great that the two of us won't be able to handle.
But an unexpected challenge changed all that. Antonia, who gave up her military career to take care of their son, died from an aggressive cancer.
About 6 weeks after she found out, things got worse, and it was very quick, very unexpected.
Spiritually, Gary could hardly handle Antonia's death.
It plastered my faith. There's no denying that.
Grief-stricken, this busy soldier struggled on alone and found single parenting almost too much.
Challenging, overwhelming, depressing, and sometimes it just seemed that it was going to just be an ultimate failure.
Gary and his son Christian lived in near isolation because it was hard going out with the boy or finding others to care for and understand him.
Because unfortunately, people do judge your child.
Then Gary discovered Jill's House in McLean, Virginia, a ministry where trained Christian caregivers lavish love and attention on children with special needs, while giving their parents a much-needed break.
We are taking care of the most vulnerable that are close and precious to God's heart.
Jill's House is named for Jill Solomon, daughter of McLean Bible Church senior pastor Lon Solomon and wife Brenda.
By her first Thanksgiving, she had 17 grand mal seizures in that single day, which caused severe brain damage.
Caring for her grew into an often 24-hour-a-day job that utterly exhausted her parents.
Just being desperate for a night of rest, a night of sleep, just something, a break, is what led them to think that we need to do something different for families just like ours, because there's nothing out there that exists for them.
For parents of special needs children, their care can often become like a full-time job, even an around-the-clock one. And it's hard to find help because how many babysitters have the special training it takes to care for such children? And if you can't get breaks, some sort of respite, you yourself can spiral into a bone-deep weariness and sadness, even depression.
So the Solomons and their church built Jill's House as a model for changing the face of disability ministry across the country. It's become a sanctuary and place of joy for folks like the McNeils. This family found out several years ago both kids, Waverly and Oliver, suffer from a genetic disorder, stealing their physical and mental abilities, and likely to kill them before they reach adulthood. It was a dark day when Matt and Shannon heard the fatal verdict for Waverly.
Shannon's first question to the doctor, and it was a room full of doctors, which is never a good sign, but was, is she going to die? The doctor very matter-of-factly said yes.
But little Waverly had no idea as they drove away from the doctors.
Waverly was in the back seat singing If You're Happy and You Know It, which just heartbreaking to see her sweet little face in the rearview mirror in the back seat, just singing as happy as though nothing had happened.
Then came the same verdict for Oliver. As both kids began their downward slide, Shannon traded her outside career for what's become all-consuming care and endless therapy. Take just the last year.
We had almost 400 appointments when you added the doctor appointments.
The days and nights Waverly and Oliver stay at Jill's house give Matt and Shannon rejuvenating breaks they say help them be better parents. And it's magic for the kids.
It allows us to have experiences, or to see them have experiences that we thought they would never have, where they get to have sleepovers and go to day camp.
The McNeils gladly accept the help because they realize the odds are stacked against them and their marriage.
Having a child with special needs, your divorce rate goes up. The loss of a child, it goes up more. The loss of two, it's pretty high.
Instead of trying to make sense of Waverly and Oliver's fate, their parents focus on the good.
They've been given a very precious gift of life that they are living very well and beautifully and with dignity, and they touch a lot of people.
And they see their children bring out the best in some people, like those caregivers at Jill's house and friends who now reach out to help others with special needs.
I love those finding those moments of grace and beauty that our kids kind of have inspired.
Daffron suggests letting God lead you in the best way to reach out to family or friends who might be in similar situations.
You don't see these families out and about in the community because it's difficult for them to be there. It's difficult for them to even just go to church. Just embrace them. Start something simple. You don't have to do something as big as Jill's house.
One plan includes using Christian camp facilities during their off-season because they are ready-made getaways for care and rest. If you reach out, you'll likely experience wonders and surprises. Like hearing from Sean, who was told he'd likely never speak, then said his first 2 words, Jill's house. Or Max, born without eyes and nearly deaf, yet displaying his musical gifts at Jill's house. Matt McNeil believes there are few deeds more divine than reaching out to these kids.
Jesus says, you know, what you do to the least of these, you do unto me. It is hard to think of someone who counts as sort of the least of these than a kid who is born with everything just sort of stacked against them.
It's a ready-made mission for caring hearts. Paul Strand, CBN News, Jill's house, McLean, Virginia.
Hard to watch that story without getting a little lump in your throat.
I tell you, it's so nice to see the church step up and give them help, much needed help.
Need a huge need. We'll be right back. And finally today, a landmark 35-year-long study has come up with 5 simple keys to live longer and stay healthy.
The 5 simple rules include eating well, regular exercise, a healthy weight, very little alcohol, and no smoking. The London Telegraph reports that only 25 of the original 2,500 men who started the study stuck to the rules, but the paper reports those who did dramatically cut their risk of cancer, diabetes, heart attack, stroke, and dementia.
It's so simple.
I know. We need to study that. Right.
That is it for now on CBN News Today. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues that you care most about at cbnnews.com.
Want to hear what you think about the stories you've seen here today? You can do it on Facebook or at CBN News on Twitter. Hope you join us again right here next time. Make it a wonderful Wednesday, everybody.